Hello and welcome to the Young Film Academy podcast, the essential podcast for teenagers looking to find their way into the creative industries. My name is Dan Allen. I'm joined by Ellen Thomas. How's it going, Ellen?
Hi, Dan. Yes, very excited for our episode all about animal handling and animals in films. We're joined by the incredible Grace. So we've got Grace Dickinson joining us today, who we found through Jill Radding's Stunt Dogs and Animals, which is an organisation that provides stunt dogs and animals for productions. But yeah, Grace brings more than 20 years of expertise with exotics, reptiles, birds, bugs, just about everything, and has some super impressive credits. Working recently on Roses, that's just come out with Benedict Cumberbatch and Olivia Colman, Mobland, Thursday Murder Club, Rings of Power, Fantastic Beasts, Wonder Woman. Yeah, she's worked on so many crazy things, and we can't wait to talk to her about all things animals.
Absolutely. What a list. So without any further ado, welcome to the podcast, Grace. How's it going? Excellent. Nice.
I'm very good, thank you.
How are you today? Are you at home? Are you at work or?
I'm working from home, but there's already been quite a lot of errands already. So reason I was a little bit late today was because I've just been doing a meet and greet between a dog and some ferrets that had to meet each other before they work together next week on set.
Oh, that's amazing. Already I'm like, this is going to be an amazing episode.
Okay, yeah, can we just go as slowly through this as possible? Because that sounds like the perfect start to a Tuesday, if ever I've heard one. So what is a pet meet and greet? Is that the official term?
There isn't even an official term for it because it doesn't happen all that often. It's quite common that we have to do meet and greets either for a director to meet an animal and decide, yes, I liked them in their photo and now I like their vibe in real life. That happens quite commonly. Or sometimes we'll take like a selection of 5 different types of cockroach for them to decide which one they like, or meet and greets for an actor who has to get acclimated with an animal. Maybe they've never handled a rat before and then they've got to learn how to do that and make it look pro. But every now and again, if we're working with animals that are from different households and haven't met before, which might be 2 different dogs or a dog and another species it's never met before, then we do an introduction in a controlled setting to make sure that nobody's going to be scared, nobody's going to try and eat each other. And that in the case today, that a lot of dogs have got quite a high prey drive. So a small wiggly animal might just blow their mind. And we need the dog to be able to do its behaviours and focus somewhere else and not look at the stinky wiggly thing, which is the ferret.
I'll be honest, when something like that happens and obviously is a thing, or you said that it doesn't happen all the time, but the fact it is happening to me says that once upon a time, many, many years ago, there was maybe a meet and greet that happened actually on set on the day that filming was meant to take place, and it didn't go well.
Well, I'm sure.
And therefore, the role of a meet and greet was discovered, or the need for one.
Well, I'm sure that happens. And I think it probably comes down to perhaps the experience and qualification of the animal handler or the animal coordinator. So I'm very proud to consider myself in the top tier, and all of my colleagues and people that I work with are the same. And we will always take every step we can to ensure best welfare for the animals and the actors, because all of that means at the end of the day, we're going to deliver on set in the most efficient way. But there are a lot of people out there that are cowboying it and might not take the same precautions. There are a lot of people still, I think, out and about working without licenses as well. And licensing in film has changed quite a lot in recent years. So there are a lot of people that just don't realise they're supposed to have licenses, and some people that do and are just sort of flying under the radar. So it all comes down to the experience and the qualification, I think, of the handlers. But if there's ever anything in doubt or question, we'll always iron out the wrinkles beforehand.
just before we sort of go into that and how that works, I need to know how it went between the ferret and the dog.
Perfect.
It went well.
But the reason being, the ferrets that I selected for the job already live in a house that's very chaotic and has a lot of other animals and cats and dogs in it. So I already knew the ferrets were dog proof and that they weren't going to get scared by barking and stuff like that, because you can't have animals, you know, flinching on camera or being scared. And the dog is already a very seasoned, experienced film dog. So he's been around other animals, and we already knew that he didn't have a very strong prey drive, but we still wanted to do that just because he'd never seen a ferret before. So we just started really gradually. You know, first he just came in the room, the ferrets were in their carry box, and we just let him sniff around. And we were paying him, so giving him the treats when he wasn't looking at the ferrets.
Okay.
Because we don't want to be rewarding him for like looking and thinking, oh my God, it's in the box. Because he might think that we're encouraging him then to do that. So we're always reinforcing when he's looking at his trainer, got him to do some tricks, and then we let him have a sniff, and that all seemed good. And then before we got the ferret out, we asked the dog to speak, because he's going to have to be doing lots of barking. And I was watching the ferrets to make sure that they didn't jump. So the ferrets didn't get scared by the barking, and we pay the ferrets a little bit. And then we get the ferret out, and I'm holding the ferret while it's moving around, and we're getting the dog to just focus on the trainer and not look at the ferrets. And it all went perfectly.
That's brilliant. And
yeah,
because of this whole meet and greet situation, I'm so interested in like how the process works, or how early in the sort of production process you meet an animal, or you're sort of given an animal, or are these animals you already know, and then what sort of process you take them through to get them ready to going on set.
So it can vary quite a lot, partly because, you know, I might get a phone call this afternoon going, oh my God, we need a hedgehog tomorrow. Or it might be that we get an email saying in 6 months' time, we'd like 3 dogs to be growling and then attack this guy and then go over there and do that thing, and you've got 6 months or a year's notice and storyboards and prep time and all that, you know. So it varies every time. But for stunt dogs and animals, and I should say for your listeners, I'm an exotics specialist. But you found us through Stunt Dogs and Animals, who mostly are known for their dogs, and they also do cats and farm animals and exotics, but I mostly do the exotics. And I'm a spare pair of hands when they need a sensible person with any other animal. But for them, their dogs are all very highly trained, and they don't usually take a dog on set if it hasn't already got, you know, 10 million useful behaviours for filming. So the handlers, a lot of them have their own dogs, but they also have dogs that they train, but that live in normal family homes.
Yeah.
So the dog is trained by the trainers and will go out with them for the day and then go back, but they all live as family pets most of the time. Or sometimes if there's a call for a really unusual breed that wouldn't get a lot of work, then they might have to headhunt or scout, which might be through an agility or a training club, or through breed associations, or, you know, dog people have got a lot of contacts in the dog world in all sorts of departments.
I'll be honest, the moment you mentioned going out and scouting, I just pictured what I thought was the sane response, which is just to wander into London with a pair of binoculars.
Yeah, walk through the park.
And just go full sort of, Dora the Explorer.
It tends to be, as sometimes that does happen, and the trainers will see a dog in the street and go, oh my God, that's got a great look. And they'll approach the owners and say, hey, what's your dog actually like? Would you be interested in this? But that's quite rare. And you know what? Everybody that's got a pet dog is rightfully obsessed with their own pet, right? Mm-hmm. And everybody says, oh my God, my dog would be the most amazing film dog. It can do 25 tricks. It's so well behaved. It does blah, blah, blah. But 9 times out of 10, actually the odds are even higher against, if that dog has done a 3-hour journey at 4 a.m, and then it's got to sit around on set for 7 hours, and then it's got to perform exactly with a camera in its face and people it doesn't know, that dog's not going to do any of the tricks it's done before. You know what I mean? Yeah. So having the food drive and a personality where they're just into everything and not nervous or scared of anything. So, you know, a really good film dog is probably like 1 in 100 1 in 200. And but you don't always know until you actually put them in situ. So stunt dogs take a lot of time gradually training the dogs, but so much of it isn't just training tricks. It's about socializing, taking them out with other dogs. Are they okay with people? Can they cope with men wearing hats? Are they okay with beards? Are they okay with other animals? What about a giant wind machine? Can they ride in a car? You know, some animals get car sick. All these tiny little, you know, and can this animal chill out and do nothing when it's in an unusual environment? So, you know, is it crate trained? All of those kind of boring bits that you just don't think of as training are what make a really good stunt dog, really. It's just having that personality.
There were things in that list that I didn't even know were like personality traits of dogs that dogs could have in a way. Like I didn't. So some dogs have an issue with beards, or like.
Oh yeah, like
is it if they're big bushy beards?
Some, you know, if say you are a dog that's come through a rescue shelter and you've not been socialised, you might panic when you see other dogs. You might want to attack small children. You might have been in a flat your whole life only with one woman, and you might have been abused by a person that dressed a certain way, you know, and dogs, you know, it's the same as little kids. When they're puppies, you have a few weeks that is like a critical period for their socializing, and if you don't get them out and they don't experience babies and children and animals and vehicles and even people with different skin color, then further down the line, if they don't have all of that when they're growing up and they're training and socializing, they can get scared of things they've never seen before.
So is a lot of that process before you go on set exposing them to those things and exposing them to things that they might be on set with, or are they likely to already have that? So
for the dog team, they're very rarely getting animals in as puppies, because it's such a gamble, because you don't know what personality that animal is going to have. And even though you could think, oh, well, if I've got train this puppy from scratch, it's going to be a blank slate, it will be whatever I put into it. But that doesn't account for personality. So you might still have an animal with a personality that doesn't really like being touched or doesn't like big crowds. You know, you can socialize to a certain point, but the natural personality of the animals is so important. And a lot of stunt dogs all come through rescue centres. And the good thing about that is the rescue centre already knows the personality of that animal. So they can say, okay, there might be this or this that needs working on, but the personality is more important than the training, and the training comes last. So, you know, or if they've got a dog that they've met that already lives with a family, they can interview the family and say, okay, what's the do's and don'ts? What does this dog prefer a toy as a reward, or does it prefer a food as a reward? And then they'll go out on walks and just, slowly before the animals are ever coming out on set. And then a lot of times the dog will come out for work experience. And actually it's the same for me with my rats or my owls or any of my other animals, the animals that are smarter. They come for work experience. So they're going in the van for the day, they're meeting other people, but they're not being expected to perform on set. But in the breaks, you can take them for walks around a set to show them things. You can practice doing some tricks, you know, so it's always fun and they're always succeeding. And then you can also assess, okay, they had a bit of a wobble with that, or we need to work on ladders because they're scary. For example.
And I guess it's like you say, you never know exactly how it's going to be until you're on set, so you're sort of constantly reevaluating.
Yeah, and it's tricky, of course, because every scenario on set is completely different as well. Whether you're indoors or outdoors, or what the scene is, or, you know, I work with an amazing cat trainer and I help her. And, you know, things that cats are sensitive to is a lot different than other animals. So if you've got a scene where, say, your two main characters are going to be having a screaming, shouting argument, you wouldn't even have the cat in the room within earshot, because they're so sensitive, they get scared. And then you don't want your cat to go off the boil. So you'd go, okay, if the cat's going to be there, you're going to mime this, or you're not going to have dialogue, or we're going to shoot the cat separately, because they're so much more sensitive to like really intense moments. Or like some dogs would be fine with that and some dogs wouldn't. Or sometimes if you've got a shouty scene and say the dog has got to lie on the bed, somebody starts shouting, but they don't want the dog to suddenly get up. They want the dog to lay down. even though in real life the dog would jump up. You know, people on films, they want what they want. And so you'd ask the actor to do it quietly, and then each take increase the volume so the animal gets used to it in real time. But that's what we would call like prep, when we're prepping on the set in real time, right before we turn over.
Yeah. And the sort of directors and actors or people you work with, are they receptive to your advice? Are they aware of how sort of key it is to, like what's that relationship like when you're sort of saying, no, we can't let the dog do that, or we can't have the cat near this?
It varies. So a lot of it, like, we'll always try and gather as much information as we can when we're still in the discussion phase before we even get there. But a lot of times there's so many different chefs in the kitchen, you know, creating a production. Even if there's 20 people on the chain email, your message often doesn't get through to where it needs to. And then you arrive on the scene and they're like, what do you mean the dog can't do this? And you're like, oh, I did tell 5 people. Yeah. So we do we get as much information as we can in the first place so that we can prepare and practice the animal for the scenario we think is going to go into. And then we'll say, okay, the limitations are X, Y, Z. For example, this dog cannot be in the same room as these other dogs because you wanted this dog that does a bite scene, but this dog has never met all these other dogs. And when dogs are doing bite scenes, they get all hyped up. So let's not throw anything else in the mix. And they go, but we really want it in this scene with it. No, if we're not sure it's going to work, we're not going to risk it. So sometimes they're very good and they already know you've laid the rules down in advance. Or, but then also when you get there on the day and you go in and you have a chat, you go, let's discuss what you want and we'll remind you what the limitations are, how we can make this work. And you know what? A lot of times it's great. You know, the dream scenario, like really how good of a day we have depends on the first AD. If the first AD, you know, to an extent the director as well, but the first is going to decide whether we have a difficult day or not, because they're our main point of contact. They're really calling the shots. Okay. And if they've worked with animals before, or they've worked with us before, and they know how we like to work, then we know we'll have a great time. If you've got a first that's never worked with animals before, they've kind of got to learn how it works, you know? And this isn't like setting up anything else on a film set. These animals, they're not remote controlled. They can't read the script, as we frequently have to remind people. But people go, oh, but it's a trained animal, isn't it? So can't it just do the thing? So, you know, if we've got a first that understands our needs, which would be, let's meet the actor first, or can we let the animal have a quick rehearsal right before we turn over? We can't just throw an animal in blind and expect them to know what to do. You know, the actors get their rehearsals and they get a script to learn. The animals don't get any of that, really. The best we can do is mimic a situation at home and practice it. For example, with the rats, I build a lot of stuff out of cardboard to mimic a corridor or a hole they've got to run through or a thing they've got to climb over, because I've just got to imagine, or I've seen a photo of the set and I've got to recreate it so that they can put their body through the motions. Or dogs, we did one with stunt dogs last year where all the dogs had to go on treadmills. Dog's never been on a treadmill before, so they had to send stunt dogs or a couple of treadmills so we could practice the dogs, so that on the day they all just went, woohoo, we'll get on that treadmill, and everything went. If they'd never seen a treadmill before, they'd have all freaked out. Exactly. So, you know, it really, really varies. Because, I mean, think about it. If you've never worked with trained animals before, you're not going to realise what's possible, but you're also not going to understand what the animal handlers need to get ready for the final moment where you're actually filming. Yeah. And I think as well, because there's a lot of people that, again, the difference between experienced professionals and people that are amateurs or coming out and winging it, amateurs might not have prepped their animals correctly, and they might not ask the studio for some prep time on the day or an introduction or whatever. So imagine if you're an AD or a production that has only worked with not very good animals or not very experienced animal trainers, you already think it's going to be a nightmare. So a lot of times we walk on the set and they're like, oh, here comes the animals. And you think, oh no, someone's done a bad job before me, and they don't realise that we're a smart outfit and we're going to get it done. Or like with rats, keep going back to rats because it's one of the things I do the most with, and even with dogs to an extent. They go, okay, I say, okay, so what would you like for this scene? What exactly do you want the rat to do? And they go, oh, just put it on the floor and, let it be a rat. And I say, no, tell me exactly what you want to see aesthetically, because what you think a rat is naturally going to do down here is not what a rat is naturally going to do down here. A natural behaviour for a rat would be to run to the closest, darkest corner and hide. But because of movies, everyone thinks a rat is going to run around in the middle of the floor going, way! So with those kinds of animals, we train them to behave how people think they behave. Yeah. Not how they actually behave. So the training sometimes we do with a rat is we're training them to override their natural instincts, basically.
Yeah. And the hardest thing someone could ask you to make an animal do is asking for the sort of simplest thing. In a way.
Or people think it's simple,
thinking it's simplest.
Exactly. They go, just put it down. And then they'll be going, God, just wasting time. I said, well, look, this rat... Yeah, this rat is trained to run from A to B. So tell me if you want it to go camera right or camera left and we'll do it. And then they go, oh my God, that was amazing. And it's like, well, yeah, you've just hired a trained rat.
Yeah. What's the most outlandish or craziest thing that someone's asked you to get an animal to do or asked an animal to do?
I should have prepared myself for this question because it's the commonest question I get that I can I can never answer it because everything is so wild.
Yeah, it's too much pressure as well. Yeah, I mean, literally. As well.
And I'm trying to.
What about a recent one? A recent particular case where you were like, "That's pretty out there."
I don't know. Do you know what? Like nothing shocks me or really makes me blink anymore.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it is quite crazy. I mean, I think probably some of the most challenging things I've done were in the past. When I used to work, I started in film working for a really big zoo that only did film work. So all the zoo animals, we were hands-on training. And we did a really big series that went on the BBC called Our Zoo. And it was a documentary. It wasn't a documentary. It was a period based on the true story of how Chester Zoo was formed after World War II. And the little girl that was in the family had a pet monkey. So we had to do loads of stuff with these monkeys. So we had 2 identical monkeys. One, because the monkeys had different personalities, right? So one of them was really clever and really good at learning actions, whereas the other one wasn't as smart at the actions, but he was really cuddly and liked being handled. So all of the scenes where the little girl's got the monkey having a cuddle or on her shoulder, we used him. And then for all the scenes where the monkey was like running over here or, he had to steal a lipstick out of somebody's pocket and then run up a fence. That was quite tricky. Yeah. And then there's a scene where the dad has like knocked unconscious and the monkey has to like tap his face and pull his finger and try to revive him. So that stuff was quite crazy. And for one of those scenes, we had to walk a load of, we had, I think, 15 penguins that we had to walk up the street for a scene. Oh, and so we were all in costume so that we could herd the penguins and just look like bystanders.
For some reason, the moment you said that you were in costume, I picked
you me too.
That was the first thing that jumped into my head.
Just to blend in.
Yeah. And we had,
they won't notice the trainers are with them. We dressed like
It'd be so much easier if I could just dress as an animal every time. Or like we did a runaway camel scene on that as well. So I'd already trained the camel to be ridden and run up the street, but they wouldn't let me ride him at the last minute in case I hurt myself. But instead, they put me in the costume of the lead actress who had to throw herself in front of the camel and stop him as he was running towards them. So I was like,
Oh, wow. So you've sort of taken on the role as a stunt double as well.
Yes, yeah,
is that
which
quite
is
common?
The most fun. And do you know what? The stunt stuff, not as much, but doubling into costume to keep the animals safe is super common if we do a big market scene. Mm-hmm. So like there's loads of medieval stuff being filmed the last few years. So if you're on a scene where there's somebody herding geese and there's chickens everywhere and there's goats on leads, that will almost always be handlers dressed in costume. Because if you ask an essay to walk a goat up and down, the chances are they're going to drop the lead or get injured, or, you know, and they can't read the behavioural signs if that animal needs to have a break or whatever. And a lot of times, even walking dogs, it'll be the actual handlers, because you'd be amazed how many essays, it's going to sound really rude, but the truth is everyone wants to walk a dog in the scene. And they probably get an extra 20 quid if they do. But nobody seems to be capable of actually holding on to the lead and not letting go.
Really?
Yeah.
They just keep...
As soon as the dog pulls...
like
or
you do
they
a take and they just let go. They forget what they're doing there. This is going to be the dumbest question, maybe, that I have for the entire...
I'm here for it.
Do you ever have to dress up as an animal and because they can't do the job and you just... I don't know, you just got to... They just need something blurry to go past that resembles a dog in the background, and all else has failed. And there's just like a secret dog costume hiding in the boot.
Do you know what? I've never been asked that question, so congratulations. The answer is...
I think it's because I'm still thinking about the penguin.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing this for about 23 years, and I have never seen anybody... Do you know, actually, that's not true. I've never had to dress up as an animal, but there are films where there are professionals that wear gorilla costumes.
Interesting. Okay. Because that's where the line is like you can handle an animal up to a certain size or up to a certain aggressiveness, is it? And then at that point, you just have to, sometimes you just got to put on the gorilla.
So a lot of time, or you'll see animatronics used. So models of animals, which sometimes can be because... the animal might want the animal to do something it physically can't, or it might be a welfare thing, or it might be a safety for cast and crew and handlers. Like in the case of gorillas, certainly in the UK and Europe, you know, there's licensing that comes into play, and it's like safety as well. So a lot of times in films, you just, you know, and use of costume and animatronics will give you more, especially in an aggression situation. And it's actually really common that you'll see, you might have a real animal, horse or cow or gorilla, that you see for loads of scenes, and then the moment where it's attacking the person's face, it's a dummy. So that might be a person in a puppet or a suit, or it might be somebody interacting with a model.
And are you involved in that conversation ever? Do you ever say, you know what, like for this, you'll probably want to use a dummy or a double for like the arm of the creature or the arm of the animal?
Me personally, not so much. I think usually the production have already anticipated when they know they're going to need to swap something in. I do have a lot to do with what we call stuffies. So a stuffy is what we call a life-size or lifelike replica of the hero animal. So I've got a rat that's the real rat, and then we've got a stuffy rat that looks identical, or a stuffy snake, or a stuffy scorpion, or a stuffy cat. And that's...
Yeah, and is it based on that specific one that you own or that you have access to?
Usually,
they've seen
usually it is. Like, I've taken rats into the model studio, into the model shops, so the model makers can measure the animals. And I've actually got a rat measurement chart at home where I can literally measure all the different dimensions of the animal, which is useful for making a stuffy, or if it's got to wear a costume as well. Sometimes the rats have to wear costumes, or all the animals really. So yeah, they'll go into the model shop so people can look at the fur and the size, and then say you've got an explosion going on in the scene. For that scene, you just put the stuffy in the cage instead. Or anything that's like deep background where you just want a hint of the animal there, but the person viewing isn't going to see. And that just lets the animal rest or not be put in a dangerous situation.
How are they like made? Because I've seen like taxidermy animals used before, but are these like all synthetic, or are they ever taxidermy based on like a similar looking?
It varies. Most of the ones I've dealt with are synthetic. Sometimes I think it would be better if... Sometimes I'm like, you should have used taxidermy. But there is... You
see some of this slightly awkward-looking stuffed animals and you're like, that,
but even the
that
synthetic ones
look
look dodgy sometimes. And some of them are really amazing. You know, I did one with stunt dogs this year where the scene actually wanted one of the main animals to be a rattlesnake that belonged to one of the main characters. And we didn't... So for that, we couldn't use a real rattlesnake because it obviously could kill somebody, and they wanted the actor to actually be handling it and working with it. So you can use venomous animals if you don't have them in direct contact with the actors, and your eye would be a hand double or whatever, but it's still so expensive and high risk. We use a snake that looks like a rattlesnake but isn't a rattlesnake, and then they're just going to CG the rattle on the end of its tail. But we had to do a stuffy for that because there was a scene where it gets killed, and so they made a model of our snake so that for that one they could, like, it looked like its head had been smashed in. Do
you ever show these stuffies to the actual pets?
Yeah.
I have a collection of pictures of the animals with their stuffies.
meeting their body double.
Yeah.
Like, don't know what happened to this guy over here. But...
Exactly. And I've got a few of my own as well. I've got like a fluffy toy rat that's the same size and colour. We've got a hedgehog. I've got plastic scorpions and cockroaches and this and that. And the cat team have got fluffy cats that are the same colour as theirs as well, because the reason we bring those on, I've got fluffy lizards and plastic model or fluffy model for everything, because you get there and they're like, oh, can you just put the animal in just so we can set the lighting up and focus and do all that? Like, no, we don't want that animal on the set more than is necessary, because it's such a stimulating environment. Even if the animals enjoy their work and they're happy to do it, they've only got a finite amount of energy that they can give in a day, just like a person. So if we can rest that, we don't know if you're going to want to do 20 takes or if you're going to be happy with 1 or 2. So even putting the animal in front of the camera to sort the focus out is tiring for the animal because it's being stimulated. So if I go, well, here is my stuffy, you can pull focus on that and everyone's delighted because it's much easier as well.
Yeah.
Or like sometimes I've got a nice photo of one of my barn owls on Bridget Jones next to a cardboard cutout that's the same size as him. So they just used a little cardboard one that they pinned up on the treehouse where he was going to be standing.
Where is there an owl in Bridget Jones? Which Bridget Jones?
The newest one.
Okay.
And there's 3 scenes. Yeah, he's playing the ghost of Mark Darcy.
Oh, yes, of course, when it appears in the window and stuff. And
that was a surprise. Well, you'd be surprised how many weeks training and prep and practice day and all that, because, they had to, it was a whole day on the main day we did filming with two owls to get those shots.
Yeah. Do you have to tell the production that? Like, do you have to say to them, like, hey, look, this is going to require X amount of training days? Are they generally pretty understanding, or do they ever say we don't want to pay for training days and stuff? And then is that on you, or do you just charge a flat fee, whatever that is?
It's really challenging.
You take into account the training.
Again, it's because it's a competitive industry, and there are people charging not very much. And usually that is reflective of the service and the results that you get. So there are some things where productions understand, yes, there's going to be training. You know, if it's like a big bite scene with a dog, for example, or something complicated, a dog's got to stand on its back legs and push a shopping trolley around or whatever, then it will be costed up based on how many weeks of training. Then, of course, there might be negotiations because of budgeting. Or we might go, well, okay, if this is your budget, I can offer you this, but not this. And then they get to choose what they think they can afford. Or other times, if you've already got, people still have an expectation, I think with dogs especially, that every dog, as standard, they're not going to pay you extra for the dog to do a sit, a go with, an eye line to the camera, a speak, There's a certain expectation that all those dogs are going to have those basics. So for the dog team, stunt dogs, they're kind of putting all of those training basics on their dogs and practicing it regularly just as a matter of course. And then there's no extra charge for that. But if a film wanted, okay, we want this very specific dog, they've Googled an image and you've got to match it. And you can only find a dog that's a pet dog. And you can say, look, this dog has got no training on it. So if you want us to put the basics on it, there's time and money involved with that. So it varies a lot. But there's been plenty of times for various companies I've worked for stunt dogs, for Amazing Animals, Charlotte Wild, where they get called back to fix a job that somebody did a bad job of. So production has decided to not follow your advice, found someone cheap or local or that's never been on a film set before, or someone that's just, you know, and it hasn't worked out very well. And then they've come back to the original company they spoke to and gone, can you actually come in? And
yeah, there must be quite an empowering thing to turn up on set that day. You must feel like a bit of a hero. Come to save,
I don't know about that. Do you know what?
The animal savior.
Not as much as you might think, because for us, anytime anybody has a negative or less than perfect experience with an animal handler, whoever they are, it reflects badly on all of us. And then people treat us a different way based on their previous experiences. And nobody knows you're going to do a good job until you've done the good job.
Sure.
Unless it's, you know, unless it's people that you've worked with. If you do get to know, oh, hi, we work together on whatever, people do get to recognise you. And what I will say is a good feeling is if you go on a job with whatever your animal is and you can just hear people in the background going, oh, yeah, I know how this is going to work. I saw them on this and it was great. And you think, yes, okay, these people already know that when they see me or my colleague or whoever turn up, that they're going to have a good day.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a really good feeling.
Yeah. I had a friend he works in commercials, and he was just saying that he was talking particularly about his experience with cats, and just sometimes just, you know, it can be the same thing run of the mill. You're like, yeah, no, cat comes in and does this, and it runs up and does this, but there are just days when just the animals, it's just not, they don't want to do it so much. And there's just not much you can do in those situations. Like, do you ever bring backup? How many backup animals do you bring for certain things, depending on what it is you're doing?
It depends on the job, and it can depend on budget as well. For commercials, I will say shooting commercials is tough because the schedule is always really overambitious for how much you can fit in the time you've got. And it's really high pressure because you only have 1 day or 2 days or 3 days. And you look at the storyboards and you're like, well, that's 5 days work. And everybody's feeling the pressure more than when you're shooting a movie or a series. So when the pressure is higher, it's kind of almost a bit harder for everybody to perform. And the animals pick up on that as well. And sometimes you could be under pressure. It definitely isn't as bad as it used to be. When I first was working in industry, like I said, 15, 20 plus years ago, I used to really dread commercials because I found the attitudes of the people at the top so different to how it is now. And they'd be like, but we need the animal to do this now. And you're like, well, I've been sat here for 7 hours telling you the longer you wait, the less well this animal is going to perform or whatever. And it might be that the animal needs to practice 3 or 4 times and then do it 3 or 4 times before it gets in a good zone. Whereas they, but the job might not have 45 minutes or an hour to wait for that. So they're going, well, it hasn't done it after 5 minutes, or what happens sometimes is people don't understand the prep process. So, for example, say you just need any animal to do an A to B, or go around a corner, or sniff a something. You start the animal at point blank range to its end point, or where it's got to sniff. And then each time you send it in, you work the distance back so it's a longer route. Okay, you can't just start the dog or cat or rat 10 meters away and expect it to go to the buzzer or the box or whatever you've got the other end. You start close and you work it back over several repetitions until you're at your starting point. So that is a process you can't really rush, but it's so important because if you don't do that, the animal's just going to look at you like, where do I go? You have to show them. And so sometimes the production will go, okay, we're going to film you prepping. And we're like, okay, do whatever you want. But I am going to be standing in front of the camera and it's going to look like this. Yeah. And they go, okay, that's fine. And then you start prepping and they're shouting at you, get out the way of the camera. Or can't you just move the animal further away from the final point? And you're like, no, because I'm showing it what to do.
Yeah.
Give me 3 more minutes.
Trust my process.
I have my director anxiety brain on as well in the background, and I totally understand the urge of just being like, just roll the camera because the dog might do something magical,
do it and you don't want to miss it, right?
But then from your side, that sounds so annoying because it's like, you understand why they're trying to get it because they might do this magical thing, but like it won't do the magical thing unless you actually have the time to get it to do the magical thing.
Yeah,
exactly. So it's all, the prep is so important, and I think for directors and firsts to understand that you can trust your trainer. If you've booked somebody that is recommended or reputable or experienced and licensed, of course, do what the trainer says, and you will get magic. Because we know if the animal's going to do it or not. And a good trainer will always be really honest with you. Although, of course, you probably know this from experience, that we don't like to make too many promises because they are animals at the end of the day. But, a lot of times we'll go, okay, we're going to prep. It's going to take this many minutes. And then we suggest that you turn over on the rehearsal.
Yes, gotcha.
Film the rehearsal, because you might get it. A lot of times the best ones are the first couple. Sometimes it does need a few goes before the animal gets. But it depends on the animal. Sometimes they get better. Sometimes they get worse. The more times you do it, but it's down to the trainer knowing the animal and trusting that process. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you work mainly in scripted TV or film? Have you always done, or do you also work on like reality shows too? And if you do, how do they differ for you and the animals?
Mostly scripted in the case of films, or storyboarded commercials. Most of the animal trainers I know don't love reality or live.
Okay.
Because there's less control. Because there's less control.
It's harder to step in and protect the dog if it's live on TV and there's like a celebrity there that's like abusing your puppy,
doing something crazy, or or people thinking that the animals are props, or game show stuff where with scary animals is just the bane of all of our lives, because animals really can get harmed.
Okay.
Where you get people having to put their arms in boxes that they can't see the animal inside and getting a token and all that kind of stuff. It's very, very hard to do that in a controlled way that actually doesn't put the animals at risk. Really hard to do.
Man, those things terrify me. Like, I don't know, like as a kid at the zoo when you had those like blind boxes and you just got to put your hand in to see what's in there, and there was never
You've done that at a zoo before?
Yeah, there was never anything in them. It was all just like,
oh, I see, like fur.
Oh, it was kind of
shed skin and stuff like
fake.
that. Yeah.
It was, like, but as a kid you're like, oh my god, there's going to be like a snake in there or like a massive tarantula. And I was convinced there would be every time, but that was it's terrifying just putting your hand in like there and
then imagine
it's scary
you're a contestant.
It's scary for the animal too, right?
Exactly. And it's risky to their health. If you've got a small animal, someone's flicking their hand around in a box, that can hurt the animal.
Yeah.
So we do have to be careful about what we say yes or no to, and or if we are going to compromise on something, making sure that we have control measures in place and making adjustments to keep both the people and the animals safe.
In terms of the sort of like strange requests and stuff, like where obviously exotic animals is your specialization. Where's the line? How exotic is exotic? And because I know you even mentioned monkeys, but obviously even monkeys have got a line, right? I'm pretty sure there's no filming with chimps these days, or is there filming with chimpanzees sometimes?
I don't. It varies from country to country. I don't think any of that would ever happen over here anymore.
Just too much of a risk because they're
a lot of it is licensing and legislation that prohibits it, and and it is dangerous, for sure. But I mean, maybe thinking about crazy things that we've done. We put an alligator, full-sized alligator, in a bathtub in a little country cottage once for an episode of, what was it?
That sounds amazing.
Not Midsummer Murders. touch of frost.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So that was quite crazy. And like circling back to other crazy bits and thinking about stunts as well. Stunt dogs and animals did an amazing, I'm not sure, can't remember what film it is. I'll have to email you later. The handler had to be a stuntman. He was in a car upside down, like suspended by his seatbelt, and the dog comes running at the car and starts attacking him and biting his arm through the car window while he's upside down in this car wreck.
Oh I'm trying to think if I've seen that film, but it's not ringing any bells.
It was relatively recent. So that was pretty wild. Yeah. That's probably one of the craziest things I can think of that the dogs team have done in recent years.
Yeah.
And you said it was the handler themselves
taking the bites, yeah.
Holy moly. To me that sounds terrifying. I got chased when I was younger by a dog, so I'm ever so slightly nervous around dogs sometimes.
Yeah, it can be scary.
The thought of having a dog coming through a window and biting my arm sounds not an ideal day at the office. Yeah,
but those are the kinds of, do you know what? The exciting and the weird scenarios are the ones that we enjoy the most. Because when you get to really work with a trust relationship with your animals, as well as pushing the boundaries on trying something new or working in a challenging environment, although it can be terrible, it can be really exciting as well.
Yeah. Did the dogs that are trained to bite and be aggressive and bark and stuff, do they enjoy that, or is it like using their defense procedures? Because I know there are dogs that are trained to be defense people, and it's not like they enjoy it or don't enjoy it, but it's just they're just trained when a threat happens, do this. Is that what's utilized when you need a dog to be aggressive on a film set, or are they trained to pretend to be aggressive? Like, are their tails secretly wagging the entire time?
So it's the same for all protection dogs. So most of the bite work, most of the bite dogs, they learn through the same ways as professional protection dogs. So professional protection dogs, they're not deciding to attack whenever they feel threatened. They're trained to follow commands or certain cues.
Gotcha.
And it's the same for a film dog. And do you know what they're all trained with? Their favourite toy. And so generally you'll use animals that already have a particular individual personality, that they get really psyched up and excited for like a tuggy toy. Usually there's particular breeds like German Shepherds or Belgian Malinois that have been bred to do those kinds of jobs. And they just, they want to get that toy. So that's their main motivator. And they love what they do. And if they're trained properly and kindly, so they're having fun all the time, they learn the out command. So the minute you give that command, they let go and they stop and they're just hanging out and chilling and wagging their tails.
So there's like no danger of them going back home and suddenly becoming like this really violent dog.
No, not if they're trained properly and carefully. But if you are doing like dogs that are having to do a really intense scene where there's a bite, or maybe they're supposed to be barking and straining at the lead and looking like they're going to attack someone, you would be very careful about how and when you schedule those scenes and what else is going on, just for safety. Because even though they wouldn't do anything maliciously, if a little kid runs and gets in the way by accident, that could be really dangerous. The dog is trying to get to its target point and it's very hyped up and it knows it's going to get rewarded for biting and hitting its target. You don't need anyone else doing anything off script.
Yeah.
And then you wouldn't film a scene with a dog doing bite work or any hyped up aggression, and then the next scene expect it to do a scene where it's chilling out in the living room with a family. Because its brain is like, this is the game we're doing now. So you would always do the chill stuff first and the hyped up stuff after.
Yeah, definitely. And Grace, I feel like you've given us so much cool information, but I want to know how you found this world. Like, how did you get into animals, and sort of specifically animals in TV? Did you grow up with animals, or what life experiences got you into this field?
So I was that kid that was just born obsessed with reptiles and dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Oh, me too.
And I never grew out of it. And I had very supportive parents that sort of helped me to fuel my passion.
Yeah.
And I was lucky that for a portion of my younger years, we did live on a farm where there were sheep in the fields and, lots of access to wildlife. And I was just always outside collecting things. And then I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Well, I wanted to be Michaela Strachan. Do you remember her? Amazing wildlife presenter on the Really Wild show. She used to present it alongside Chris Packham and Terry Nutkins. And it was, one of these like kids magazine TV shows all about wildlife. Yeah. And they'd have animals in the studios. I knew that was what I wanted to do, but I didn't know that was a job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I was just focused on jobs with animals as a young teenager. I was volunteering in my local wildlife centre. Because back then there wasn't as much insurance and red tape as there is now. So I was like 13 years old working in my wildlife park on the weekends. And
nice.
And then I went to animal college instead of A-levels, which was right at the beginning of the birth of vocational college courses. They'd only been running for a couple of years. And the college I went to, so it was like 2-year course, and the college had an animal room and a working farm and dog kennels. So as well as classroom studies, I had hands-on with the animals, learning grooming and training and giving injections and all this kind of stuff. And that had two work experience placements. 6 weeks in the first year where I went to a zoo up north in Wales, and I was like, oh yeah, this is what I want to do. Zookeeping is the thing. Yeah. Because I already had pet reptiles from like the age of 11.
Mm-hmm.
And then second year, I went to Amazing Animals for work experience. I was supposed to go to the Neil Scanlon studios, who are the people that did the animatronics on Babe.
Okay.
And actually, more recently, they've done Star Wars and all that, doing the animatronic animals and monsters and aliens.
Hey, yeah.
And my dad was a product designer, and he knew Neil Scanlon because he used to go down the workshop to get stuff for his own business done. And he said, "Oh, you'd love this place. You should go for work placement here." And they booked me in for my 6-week placement. And at the very last minute, phoned me up and said, "Hey, we're really sorry. We've just had a big job fall through. There's no point you coming. There's nothing to do." And I didn't understand because I didn't know how the film industry is.
Yeah.
You can lose a job tomorrow and then you're twiddling your thumbs for the next few weeks.
Yeah.
And which I now understand all too well. And so, oh no, what am I going to do? And I'd seen a documentary on TV about animals being used in films. And I emailed the BBC, because back then you could email the BBC and get a real person. And I said, "Hey, I saw this documentary. I couldn't remember what it was called or when it was on TV, but this is sort of what was happening. Can you tell me where this was and give me a phone number?" And a week later, they replied saying, "Oh yeah, that's Amazing Animals, Heathrop Zoo Gardens. Here's their address and phone number."
Imagine that service now.
I know.
Here's the producer. This is how you get in touch.
Literally. So I went up there for work experience for 6 weeks, and I lived on site in a caravan opposite the polar bear, next door to the reptile house.
Oh wow!
And they gave me.
That's got to be a dream. Next to the reptile house, especially if you're obsessed with.
Yeah. They gave me a baby camel to hand rear, and and I never went home, basically. So I cut my teeth there, and I did take a break for university. I did go and do a degree in animal behaviour, but I was back living and working at the zoo in all my breaks, and then after uni, I did a bit of travelling, and then I just kept coming back, and I lived in house, and I still do a bit of work for them every now and again now, even though I'm now working independently as a provider.
Yeah. With them. In terms of like your own animals, I know you mentioned you have rats a few times. How many pets do you have, or how many like trained animals do you have at home?
Well, I will say I don't know.
That is a good answer. That's when you know you've.
That's all we need to know. That.
So it's kind of. Just I mean, I don't really consider them my pets because they are all.
Of course,
they're more like
I didn't know what to call them, to be honest.
They're more like my colleagues.
Yeah. Okay.
So I do have one or two that definitely are pets because I don't use them for any purpose other than hanging out with for various reasons. And there are definitely some animals I wouldn't have if I wasn't doing film work. But also 50% of my work is that I take animals to live events and schools and scouts and do animal therapy and stuff like that. So
nice.
Yeah, so we need a lot of animals for that as well. But no, we've probably got over 100 heads, 150 heads of animals and about 45 different species.
Could you give us an idea of, like, obviously, how many, do you have more than 10 rats? Do you have, like, do you have a hedgehog or
yeah,
we got that third
got two hedgehogs,
Nice.
I think 13 or 14 rats, maybe about 10 or 11 snakes, hundreds of cockroaches.
Oh my God.
Yeah, all different kinds of bugs and creepy crawlies. Got two
would you own the cockroaches if you didn't need them for film? Are those the ones that maybe
I would. I love them.
Because different creatures go down people's heads in like different ways, right? I found out this really interesting thing. Like they did this experiment on rats where they flew different silhouettes over the top of their enclosure, and they would do like a square, a circle, a triangle, and they didn't respond to anything. Then they started doing like shapes of animals, and they did some birds, and they didn't care at all. And then the moment they did like a bird of prey silhouette, they all just sort of lost their minds and freaked out, even though they grew up in captivity and they'd never seen one before. But they've got
their instincts are really strong.
Yeah, they've got that sort of like in their bones, like they know sort of like what they what's a threat and what's not. And that's obviously the same with humans, is that spiders very often get under people's skin just because we naturally are like fearful of them because they might be poisonous or venomous rather. But like, and I feel like insects is another big one, but there is like I love snakes, right? And snakes scare people, but insects is a big one that I feel like more people will probably say they wouldn't like, they're freaked out about insects. But obviously that doesn't, your brain went the other way as mine did with snakes. So do you quite like insects in general, or is it particular ones that you like?
No, I like them all. I think growing up as a reptile keeper and then becoming a professional reptile keeper and working in zoos, you kind of have to like bugs because they kind of come with the territory.
Of course,
And if you don't like them, you soon get to like them. Because like I didn't have a lot of experience with bugs early in my career, but the more I got to know them and like them, it just opened up this whole new amazing world of really cool creatures.
Yeah.
And like being able to bring them onto sets and share them with people and convert other people is so cool as well. Like one time, this is a stunt dog story. Actually, this might be one of the crazy things. I trained the cockroaches the same as the other animals, so we can get the cockroach to do an A to B in a straight line. And we did this for a horror film called Saint Maud a couple of years ago.
Yes, I know Saint Maud. It's great film.
You've seen it?
Yeah.
You need to watch it again because the cockroach got her name in the credits.
Did it?
Yes.
I think I just assumed the cockroaches were CGI.
Everybody assumes. So Nancy the cockroach did a couple of days on it. And she had a lot to do, and she was playing, as you know, you've seen the film, she kind of plays the voice of God. She's like a vessel. So kind of a hero role, which we don't get very often for bugs. So I was already pretty pumped. But she had to do for these really amazing, creepy close-ups, crawling out of the sink, crawling up the wall, crawling on the ceiling, and then this very big, long A to B across the middle of the room, which was really difficult to do because she had to go across the floorboards and then across the carpet. But if you're a little cockroach and you hit the edge of a carpet, that's the same as me or you having to climb up a 5 or 6 foot wall.
Yeah,
so true.
So they're natural, and because they naturally think when they're in the middle of a room, just like a rat or mouse, they assume something's going to come down and eat them. So they don't want to be in the middle of the room. So you train them to do the A to B, but when they hit the carpet, normally they do a right angle and walk along the edge of a carpet. So getting her to come up over the edge of the carpet and carry on going in a straight line was like quite an achievement. But because we trained her, and she had to do some on a green screen as well because she was too heavy-bodied to go right the way up the wall or upside down on the ceiling. So they do it on green so they could then change the angle.
Interesting.
But she had to do a very specific straight line because the focus was pulling so tight. she had to go in that exact, and for the sink, we had to put a little ladder in the sink so she could go up the ramp because the edge of the sink was too slippery. So you could get that lovely reveal.
Amazing. You got a little like cockroach ladder in the sink and stuff.
Yeah.
And
It
then
feels almost like a diving pool. I don't know why. That's what I'm picturing. The ladder that takes you up to the highest.
It was more like a little ramp, but then we had to train her to go up that. So she knew what to do. And then you got that nice reveal of her feelers coming up over the top. And they'd allowed like 3 hours for us to do all the cockroach sequences because they thought, this might take some time. But we got everything done and more in less than an hour.
Wow.
And the DOP just looked at me and went,
Nancy.
he went, this cockroach has made us all look pretty stupid.
Was that the moment that was probably the moment that Nancy earned her place in the credits, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, the director, Rose, who was so amazing, she was just into her and was like, this bug is so cool.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's hardly ever, it's so rare that the handlers themselves get credited. It's even more rare for an animal to get credited, especially a cockroach. And the media went wild. Empire magazine did a little feature. I had some reporter in LA phone me up and do an interview. It was like everywhere.
Superstar cockroach. I think before we draw our conversation to a close, I think it's my turn for a stupid question. And because I was just thinking about the cockroach and I was like, do you ever get scared you're going to like misplace an animal and mix it up with another one? Because I mean, to me, cockroaches look all the same. So could you ever accidentally like pick up another cockroach and then you've lost Nancy? Like, how do you keep track of all your cockroaches?
It's a really good question. So if we're having to do something very specific and trained, then we'll work with a few, kind of like interview them.
Yeah.
And see.
I was going to ask if you interviewed them if sheer competition from the other cockroaches. I was like, this is Ellen's turn for a dance.
Yeah. No, it's a great question. And it's the same with the rats. All my rats are brown and look identical, but they've got different personalities. So therefore they've got different skills. So if you've got a job where it's either got to do a sit stay or an A to B or climb or whatever, you just play around with them all and then you earmark, okay, this one didn't like it, that one got scared, this one seems quite up for it. And then you whittle it down because you do want to have some backups in case somebody gets tired or isn't well on the day or whatever. So then by the time you get to it, when you've spent lots of days prep, they all look really different.
I guess when you know them so well.
Or what you can do on the day, you'd separate the one you wanted into a different box. Or like with the rats, you get to see, that one's got a tiny little bit of white on its cheek. Or if you really can't tell, with the rats, you can put a little mark under their tail with a Sharpie.
Yeah. I'm imagining Nancy like in some fancy green room box with all her favourite snacks and the other cockroaches.
Oh, she was. She
got a rider.
Lots of banana for Nancy.
Is that right? See, because you have to get the brown ones because they're the ones that actually look like wild rats. But are they still house rats?
Yep. Yeah. They're still pet rats. They just look wild.
Gotcha. Yeah, I saw once in a movie, it was meant to be a wild rat, but it was like, it looked like a Dalmatian. Yeah, sort of like,
it's so disappointing, isn't it? And you just think, come on. Yeah, because there are those of us out here that have them for the film, and the same with the mice. And we've got ones that look like cute pets as well, because sometimes you have a role for a pet. Yeah. Have you seen the series Outrageous? It's a period piece about the Mitford sisters. It only came out like a month or so ago.
I've heard about it. Is it sort of 1920s or?
Yes.
Yeah, like socialites in
20s, 30s. Yeah. And it's all based on a true story. And we did loads on that. And my rat Chuck stole the show. he had to do like a 5-meter A to B across the middle of a lawn while he was being released into the wild. And that was quite a lot of, and he had to ride in a handbag and ride on her shoulder and do all this stuff. And ever since that came out, almost every job I've done since, somebody on the production crew has come up to me and asked how Chuck is.
Really?
Because he made a big impression on that one, yeah.
Oh, that must be a really good feeling as well, yeah.
Check out that clip and maybe we can share it on our social media channels, maybe.
Oh, yeah, you should definitely check it out. He did a lot in episode 1, and then I think the release was in 5 or 6.
Okay.
But it's quite an emotional scene because, you know, in real life, that character did have a rat that she used to take to parties to shock people with.
Yeah.
And, you know, she's going to go abroad. And so she's releasing the rat into the wild. But it was legitimately the last day she was going to shoot with him as well. So she was actually quite emotional when she shot the scene.
Oh.
Yeah.
It was all it was all real. These are authentic performances from that day.
Oh, they really were. And we had to film it quite a lot of times because they had a camera tracking alongside him, and then they did a crane coming above, and then another where they had him running at the camera. And because it was out the front of a really big stately home, it was quite a scary place to do a release like that with a small animal. And at one point we had a bird of prey flying over. And we were like, sorry, guys. I scooped him up straight away, said, we're not shooting until that thing is out of eye shot because it could swoop down and grab him in the middle of filming.
Have you seen that viral clip on the internet of someone's like nursed like a rodent of some form back to health, and they release it, and within 2 seconds a bird just swoops in and takes it away, and it's a child that's releasing it.
I mustn't laugh, but I have seen that and it is hilarious.
It's the most savage.
Nature is cruel, but we have to remember all that stuff when we're filming as well, you know, just to keep everybody safe and happy.
100%.
So, Grace, at the end of each episode, we always ask our guests the same question, and we've touched a bit on already what you were doing when you were a teenager, but we always ask each guest what they were doing in their teenage years that turned out to be most useful for what they do now, and if they could offer any piece of advice to their teenage self, what would it be? So,
Yeah, so as you know, I already had loads of pets and was messing around with animals, and I was, you know, and I was training my pet ferrets for fun and all that kind of stuff, and just volunteering everywhere I could. And I was so focused on it, you know. I didn't go to house parties at school, and I don't get me wrong, you know, I had friends and had a social life. But I always had to put the animals first because, you know, who else is going to look after them? You know, my mum was quite strict about that kind of thing. So I did sacrifice a lot of social opportunities, putting the animals first, but it put me in really good stead for what I do now and the level of commitment that is needed. And my advice, do you know what? I couldn't give myself any better advice. There's nothing I would change.
Okay.
And my advice to anybody that's a teenager now that wants to work with animals in any capacity or be an animal trainer is just put yourself out there, volunteer, help everywhere you can. If it's a farm, if it's a riding stables, if it's at your local pet shop, do it all, because it's such a competitive industry. And it requires so much experience. You know, even now, if you want to be a zookeeper, you'll be expected to have worked for like a couple of years for free in other places. But that work experience and volunteering that you do is so valuable. Because you get to make mistakes in a supportive environment. You know, where it's still safe for the animals. You're not going to lose your job. You know, there's so much to learn, and doing that in a voluntary capacity is so important. And then you get that experience and that insight, you know, like all the farming stuff I did as a kid helping out on my local farm. Well, now I can go on a film set. If stunt dogs are doing a big farm day and they need someone to walk a sheep or a cow up and down, I've done it. You know, and I haven't had to learn that much from scratch as an adult because of how much I did when I was younger. And just how much I've learned from, you know, mentors and managers along the way. And I'd say as well for animals now, definitely look at what vocational or college qualifications you can get alongside, because you really need both. But it's just put yourself out there, volunteer, and just ask. and don't expect anything to come easy.
Sure,
yeah,
sure.
Definitely.
Do you have any animals that you haven't worked with yet that you would like to work with in this capacity?
Do you know what? As a kid and a teen and young person, as I went through my career, my goal was to work with everything, because I thought, what if the next thing I haven't worked with before turns out to be my calling and my favourite thing?
Yeah.
And as it happened, my gut was correct, and I've always kept coming back to reptiles and birds of prey, always.
Yeah.
I went to the Sea Life Park in Hawaii to work with dolphins and sea lions, because I hadn't worked with them before. It turns out I'm scared of dolphins. You know,
that's such a curveball considering all the creatures that you sort of have worked with. Crocodiles.
Yeah, they're dodgy, man. They're dodgy.
But what don't you like about dolphins?
I've heard they're quite problematic. They're quite like
a bit snappy,
promiscuous.
Well, do you know what? I'm not a massive fan of working with big carnivores, apart from crocodiles and big snakes. They're not they don't count. But for me, you know, like where I've done bits and pieces with tigers and wolves and hyenas, doesn't do it for me like the reptiles. And I think it's just everybody has their own individual thing that they're going to be drawn to, and they're going to feel more you know, like even for me, like I'm not really a dog person, but I have to kind of really get to know the dogs to enjoy working with them, you know. And dolphins for me, I just went, oh, wow, this is a really massive, super intelligent predator.
Yeah.
And we're working in an environment that is not a natural environment for a human to be in the water. And, you know, accidents happen, don't they? Working with any animal, especially large carnivores, yes, we all choose and understand those risks and respect the animals enormously, but there are still risks.
And I guess
it wasn't for me.
Yeah, I guess working with animals and knowing a lot about animals, you have an informed fear as well. Like, you know, when you should be scared.
Yeah. But, you know, I know a guy, you know, I've known people that were big cat trainers that wouldn't come anywhere near a crocodile.
Interesting.
We all have our different talents and our different comfort zones. But no, I feel like, I mean, obviously I can't say I've worked with every animal that exists, but I've been so lucky over the course of my career working in zoos, as well as, you know, through film. I've been so lucky. Well, I say I've been lucky. I've worked very, very hard, and I've actively pursued working with different species. But I've pretty much covered everything, and I know what I like, I know what I don't like, I know what my limitations are. I know when I need to phone someone that's more of an expert than me on something.
Yeah.
For sure. Grace, lastly, what's your favourite dinosaur?
Probably a Parasaurolophus.
Ooh, what's a Parasaurolophus?
The
Is that
ones
one
with the great big crest
neck?
great big crest out the back of its head.
Back of its head.
Oh, does it fly? No. I'm gonna.
You say Parasaurolophus.
Parasaurolophus, yeah. They've got like a big, fat lips on their face like a cow, and they stand upright on two legs.
Yes, I know the one.
Yeah.
Very adorable. Herbivores. Googled it.
Are you still into your dinosaurs?
I love my dinosaurs, yeah.
Yeah. I actually did a diploma in advanced paleontology this year that I just completed.
That's awesome.
But that's so that I can, like, you know, do more with the education. I can do dinosaur stuff with the modern relatives as well.
So probably your dream animal to work with would be a dinosaur, maybe.
They are trying to bring back the woolly mammoths, aren't they? I know not quite dinosaur, but not far away.
I disagree with that. We need a whole other hour to talk about that. I don't think we should be bringing back those types of extinct animals.
But let's say they do, Grace. Will you put
if Jurassic Park was real, I would definitely work there.
Would you? But would you put a woolly mammoth on your books for usage in the film industry?
Maybe. Do you know what? Maybe. I have done 2 woolly mammoth jobs before.
Have you?
Of course you have.
When I worked at Amazing Animals, they did 2. Well, I shouldn't say woolly mammoth. It was mastodon. So same family as woolly mammoth. Yeah. And they wanted wolves and vultures on the carcass. So they had a great big model dead woolly mammoth both jobs were the same with the scavengers, and they used real scavengers on the body.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Honestly, Grace, we could go on and on, I think, on all the crazy jobs you've worked on and the list of animals.
Let's do it again sometime.
But thank you so much. This has been so fun and learnt loads.
Oh, it's been my absolute pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Have you ever had any pets, Ellen?
I've actually had no pets, Dan.
No pets?
I had one pet I can remember. Well, I had a few goldfish and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I had a hamster when I was very young called George. And it's like, you know, those memories that are so blurry and far away that they're just like pictures. So I can just kind of see his cage right now. And yeah, so one day he wasn't in his cage. It's like he's missing. And then, trigger warning, sadly, they found him behind our fridge because he'd escaped and chewed one of the wires. And so that was pretty traumatic as a child. My parents tried to sort of shield me from that as much as possible, but the facts were there. And so, yeah, that just kind of our sort of pet life of owner of pets ended there.
It began and end with George.
Yeah. And my parents were quite busy. They weren't home a lot, so we didn't really have space for a pet. So yeah, I never really got to do that. But I love being around dogs. I'm more of a dog person than a cat person, I'd say.
Gotcha. Well,
what about you?
Go into the film industry and you can hang out with dogs all the time by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
I've had a few animals over the years, you know. Nothing that ever felt like long enough to take too much time. I really wanted a ferret, as it happens, and I also really wanted a bearded dragon. But I didn't. I had some rabbits, some guinea pigs, I'm sure I had a goldfish, some rats very briefly, and some ducks as well, which is the least common.
Wow, ducks.
Yeah. They had some French runners, so they're the ones that sort of they're more upright rather than having their body level and then with their legs underneath. They're more, I think they're called like French runners or something.
They have quite a long neck.
I think so. Yeah. They're pretty cool. We had one called Posh and one called Bex.
That's so good. So good. My cousin had gerbils, I remember, called Ant and Deck.
Incredible.
And it was funny as well, but I love Posh and Bex. Yeah.
Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, what goes into sort of bringing animals onto set, I think, is amazing.
Yeah.
I think the amount of passion and stuff from Grace.
Yeah, and commitment and knowledge. Just, I feel I could ask Grace any question about any animal and she would know the answer.
Oh my God, literally. I mean, that's what I was thinking as well.
Yeah.
I felt like if I named an animal, she'd be like, oh, I've worked with that as well. Like the fact.
Yeah, and like this animal likes this. This is what this animal, like if you get a bite from it, this is how you cure it, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it was when I said like about woolly mammoths. And she's like,
I've actually had 2 jobs with Yeah,
actually, I've worked with those.
I was a few times with my like split screen, sort of silently Googling like I didn't know that woolly mammoths, like I thought they didn't exist, or
what?
Yeah,
you thought they were made up.
I've started saying this and now I regret it, but like I just thought that they like were extinct.
Well, they are. But they're trying to bring them back.
But then how has she done 2 jobs with woolly mammoth?
It was a fake woolly mammoth. They had to make a fake one. So she had a job involving, it was a replica woolly mammoth, and then there was real animals like scavenging and like eating from the pretend carcass.
Oh, that makes way more sense, because I thought they'd sort of dressed up like an animal that was similar to a woolly mammoth. Yeah.
What in another what was it? Animal handler who has to dress as his animal.
Yeah.
The through plot that we didn't see coming for this episode was actually about humans dressing up as as animals.
But honestly, every episode that we record, and I think especially with this one, my mind gets like reshattered in like a certain like field of filmmaking, and just this one was a big shatter. I was like, whoa.
Yeah. Oh, me too. I think just sort of what goes into sort of teaching them stuff, the idea of learning a trick backwards as well, starting them off close to the target and then working backwards, I thought was really interesting. I think there's so much interesting stuff in there, and just sort of her specialism, like Grace's specialism with all these exotic animals and stuff, I think was just so interesting. And also, hearing about licensing as well, I think it's really sort of cool as well. Like, that's why they don't have like big chimpanzees on set, like, because you can't do that on certain ones. But then I thought, obviously they have that tiger in what's it called? The
is it Life of
Hangover
Pi?
and Life of Pi as well.
Yeah.
So obviously they do get these big animals on set. And it's just amazing. What a cool world, what a cool specialism. If you love zoos and you love cinema, then get much cooler the combo than this. We have a question, Ellen. This is from Andreas. Andreas says, I want to use my friend's dog in our film. Any tips on working with animals? We didn't go into dogs too much. We're going to have Sago on, hopefully, who's going to talk about dogs more specifically. But we heard quite a bit about sort of them having personalities. That blew my mind that they don't raise them, that they go and find them, which makes way more sense, because I was picturing some kind of like, have you seen the film 300 where they throw all like the babies over the cliff if the babies don't live up? They're not up to scratch, and there's just a pile of baby skeletons. Oh,
no, I haven't seen that one. The
whole thing in 300. I was picturing that of all these dogs. It's like, this one's too aggressive, and then just like throw them away.
Oh no,
which obviously you don't want to happen to a dog.
I was imagining like lots of sort of like dance mums.
Yeah.
But like the equivalent with dogs, like really sort of
all the actions.
Yeah, sort of really like intense dog owners being like, no, my dog's the best, and look, she can do this and that, which would have been interesting to talk to Grace about, actually, like how that relationship with the owners, because a lot of them come from sort of family homes, but in response to the question, I think Grace mentioned at the beginning that a lot of the training isn't getting the animal to do a specific thing, but it's normalizing them in an environment so that they're sort of not startled by new conditions. And like, if the dog already has a personality that's quite laid back and sort of not intimidated by new environments, that's a good place to start. And maybe if you're starting with a dog and you're a young filmmaker, maybe don't have a film that's all about a dog and rely heavily on this dog being able to perform certain things. Sort of incorporate a dog. That's a fun way to sort of challenge yourself and learn about using animals. But don't have the dog sort of doing a somersault and then
what?
I don't know, maybe I don't know if this dog has sort of
I'm with you. I think I echo everything that you're saying. I think realistically be aware of the dog and its capabilities. My advice genuinely is do it. Just go put the dog in your film, encounter all the problems that you're going to encounter, learn a lot from the experience. I think it's great opportunity for you to work with animals if you've got a friend's pet that maybe seems like it's got the right demeanor and the right disposition to do this kind of thing. So
and just find out everything you can about the dog. Ask your friend, like,
absolutely. But it's a great shout not having the dog in every scene and actually being particular about where and when you're going to use the dog. And then you can tell very quickly if you can scale up or down, or whether you need to scale up or down that expectation. But be prepared that you're going to have to.
Yeah, and dogs can be really fun storytelling devices, or pets and animals. Like I'm thinking of have you seen Widows with Viola Davis?
I know the film, yeah.
And there's a very important dog in there that tells us important things that we realise later on. And I guess it's in a horror film, if like in The Thing, which I know that Dan, you saw a couple of days ago, The Thing.
Oh yes, I have seen The Thing. Yeah,
the dogs play quite an important role in that, and when the
some
dogs,
really uncanny performances in that as well. It's actually really impressive what the dogs
when the
do.
dog knows something's up. Up.
Yeah. Oh, they know.
Yeah, and that can be really scary.
100%. Guys.
But yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you, Grace.
Thank you, Dan.
It's been a real pleasure. And the beginning of our animal adventure, by the sounds of it, I think we've got a lot more questions to ask a few more people to get to the bottom of exactly how this part of the industry
I think
works.
we're going to have to do a spin-off podcast.
Animals.
The Young Zoo Film Academy podcast.
The Young Animal Animals on Screen Academy.
Yeah.
I'm here for it. Ellen, I'll see you soon.
See you soon, Dan. Goodbye.
Send your questions to podcast@youngfilmacademy.co.uk. Thank you very much for listening. Bye-bye.